So imagine living in a home or a house where the weather changed frequently and without any warning. One moment the sky is clear, the next the sky is a storm. And after living there long enough, you stop trusting the sky. You stop finding yourself believing that the sunny sky means it is going to be sunny all the time. You start assuming that if it's now sunny, then somewhere or after some time it might end up raining or a storm might end up coming. So that's often how a person with an anxious attachment will end up describing how they feel being in a relationship. It's not that there's always a storm in the relationship, but it's just that their nervous system has not learned that calm always lasts. And it's often easy to blame or always go into these social media labels that the anxious person is clingy or that they are always behind their partners, that they are, it's because of their overthinking and because of their the way that they end up sabotaging the relationship or abandoning the connection, etc. Instead of going into all these labels and believing these myths, it's often useful to look at the behavior as to where did it first start, the root cause of the behavior, and understand why the nervous system learned that calm always wasn't something that they could fully trust. For that, you need to understand how anxious attachment develops. So, for many people with an anxious attachment, love has always been there, but it's not that love was consistent or love was predictable. When the kid needs reassurance or is frightened and upset, they end up getting the sort of reassurance that that they need, but sometimes it is very inconsistent and unavailable at times, or even unpredictable, and that's the reason the kid ends up learning that they need to always be on guard to look out for signs that if mama or if dad is in a happy mood or is smiling, then maybe I can tell them that I need xyz. But if they are suppose on their phone, or if they are not talking to me, or if they are just silent, giving me that silent treatment, then I know that I just need to watch TV or just be in my own room. So the kid does not really know that the parent is stressed or that they are having a difficult day. Rather, the kid and their nervous system ends up learning a much simpler lesson, that connection isn't always predictable. So it adapts, becoming increasingly sensitive to emotional distance and changes in connection. It becomes a strategy that helps the kid stay close to the parent or the caretaker that they depend on. But the challenge is that years later, the nervous system carries the same strategy into adult relationship, even though the environment has changed. How anxious attachment can quietly sabotage relationship. Think of basic maths that you would have learned when you were a kid, that a kid learns where in fourth or fifth grade. So now imagine the kid using this same maths theories and principles in order to pass higher secondary exam. So not only will the kid fail, but the kid will also grow increasingly frustrated because they are trying to solve something new, something novel, while using old or outdated principles, right? And this is exactly how the anxiously attached person would end up feeling, because they end up carrying those similar behaviors or actions from childhood into their adult life as well, thinking that these will help them in order to survive or live a happy, healthy relationship, not knowing that sometimes unknowingly they end up sabotaging the relationship. So, here are a few of these behaviors that anxiously attached end up doing that end up sabotaging the relationship. First is becoming increasingly hypervigilant. So instead of experiencing the relationship as it is, or in the here and now, in the present moment, their nervous system begins monitoring it for signs that might, for anything that might go wrong. This showcases as them being on alert for a delayed reply, a change in tone, a shorter text than usual, a partner seeming little quiet than usual, or the opposite is also true, a partner seeming excessively happy after a getaway or after a few days of them not meeting. So all of these small moments can very sudden and very emotionally significant for the anxious person, and from the outside to the other person it can look like the other partner, the anxious person, is just overthinking all these things, or that they are just worrying for no reason. But internally the nervous system is doing exactly what it had learned years ago, is that stay alert and protect the relationship from any possible threat or loss. And the difficulty is that the constant scanning, the constant hypervigilance, the constant being on alert is what leads them to think or be in the future or think in what ifs, rather than being present and living in the moment or being in the moment with their partner in the relationship. Point number two is seeking reassurance that never quite lasts. When the nervous system senses that even a possibility of emotional distance, it often looks to the relationship to restore a sense of safety. Imagine them feeling that they are going to lose their partner, or them overthinking into a spiral of what if the person leaves me, and then coming to a conclusion that yes, the person might end up leaving me. So they might end up asking questions such as, are we okay? Do you still love me? What about me do you still like? Or do you think, is there something that we need to work on, etc.? So these are constant ways in which they will end up asking or seeking for reassurance, and this in order to know that the relationship is still secure. Now the difficulty arises when they are not happy, or not, they do not feel satisfied when the partner feels or gives them reassurance. Sure, they do feel fine or happy in the moment when the partner does reciprocate and give them reassurance, saying that yes, we are okay, or that I still love you, or that let me know what is up with you, we'll to have a talk, etc. But the insecurity or the that spirals end up coming back again. It ends up coming because that insecurity isn't rooted in the present moment, it's rooted in the deeper fear that connection could disappear any moment. Point number three, protesting instead of communicating. Another pattern we often see is that our protest behaviors. So protest behaviors are any sort of actions that are undertaken by a person when a person feels emotionally insecure, disconnected, or threatened in a relationship. And instead of expressing their needs directly, the anxious person or the anxiously attached person ends up resorting to protest behaviors. So some of them are passive aggressiveness, starting an argument for no reason, emotionally withdrawing, testing their partner in many scenarios, seeing if they will reach out after days of no contact, or giving them silence on purpose to check if they will reach out first. Now, these behaviors aren't usually done to manipulate the partner or to manipulate the relationship, and it's not because the anxious person is cunning or evil. Rather, it is an attempt to seek closeness without having to say it directly. Someone who fears rejection, saying I need you or I feel insecure can be incredibly vulnerable. So the nervous system chooses indirect strategies instead, but these strategies only end up pushing the other person a bit far away and confuse the very people that we hope understand us. Fourth point is confusing anxiety with intuition. For an anxiously attached person, thoughts can feel incredibly convincing, right? A delayed reply can suddenly become, oh, they are not interested in me, oh, that they are pulling away from me. A partner needing space can be, they are losing interest in me. The feeling can be so intense that it can start to feel like evidence for the anxiously attached person. And rather than stop pausing, questioning their thoughts, they end up thinking that their thoughts are their reality, right? And sometimes the anxiety isn't detecting danger, it is anticipating life based on past experiences. Last one is people pleasing until resentment builds. So many people with anxious attachment become incredible caregivers in their relationship. They over accommodate, they forgive, they often prioritize their partner's needs over their own. This can feel like they are being selfless, naturally selfless, but sometimes they end up doing that because somewhere as a kid and while growing up they learn that if they are being useful, if they are making sure the other person stayed happy, then then the relationship will be happy, or that they will not be abandoned, or that no, they will not be replaced in a connection. And over time this they begin neglecting their own needs. They will avoid difficult conversations, they will tolerate things that hurt them just to keep the peace in a connection. Now eventually what happens is that resentment ends up building slowly but slowly, and it does not build because they don't love them or that because they were fake all along, but it's just that they were putting the other person on pedestal while they were the one being treated as a rug. Then often people end up complaining is that the anxious person ends up exploding out of nowhere. Now it's not that they ended up exploding out of nowhere, it's just that they couldn't suppress their needs that much, and that's the reason they ended up bursting out or exploding. So where does one go from here? So here were the behaviors in which anxiously attached people end up, sometimes consciously, sometimes unconsciously, end up sabotaging their relationship. So attachment patterns are not really permanent identities, right? They are learned patterns of behavior, and just like any other pattern of behavior, it can be learned and unlearned as well, but it does end up taking time and effort, and sometimes working with a therapist, with a professional who is much more equipped to handle, to support you, is what allows you uh, to enjoy the process as well as know or and build a much more healthier relationship with yourself. And sometimes building lasting and emotionally secure relationships, as well as building a safe and sound connection with your own inner child as well as your own self, is what allows you to experience the same reality as well. So this is what I would like, where I would like to end the video. And if anything here resonated with you, or if you liked watching the video, then please do like and subscribe, and do let me know what resonated with you. And I will see you in the next video. Bye.